Welcome back to another episode of Doing It for Attention. And I'm joined by the one and only Tash Evans from Hook. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for
No
having me.
problem. It's kind of been a long time coming, actually, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
I feel like
it
I've been
has.
chasing you for ages. I've met lots of your team actually at events, and I think obviously being in the customer and marketing segment of the business, you guys are doing some really awesome stuff, and it's always a brand that kind of sticks in my mind. So I'd love to dive
Did
into.
we stand out, did we, at the
I think
events?
the t-shirt certainly stood out. Yeah, I had to wear sunglasses
What a
in the venue,
surprise.
but and then
Yes.
you hosted a really good event actually at Jimbo Law, which
We did.
which was
Yeah.
really good. But sadly, I wasn't drinking that evening, so I couldn't like fully partake in
That's
the.
a shame for you,
And
isn't
it
it?
was a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think things like that are so good for our community. Like, yes, the face to face and the content led events are amazing, but sometimes we all just need to get together
yeah,
and like talk about things,
yeah,
and sometimes it's over a glass of wine. I think it's very beneficial
yeah,
for the
exactly.
community.
And it's really funny because you see a lot of people posting and talking on LinkedIn, and you've never actually met them in the flesh before. And then you go to an
Yeah.
event, and all of a sudden you're talking to them like you're a continuation of the conversation online, and actually you've never met
Yeah.
them before, but it just feels like
Yeah.
you have. It's really strange, but it
Yeah.
does show how kind of interconnected the community is. And then people come up to you.
Definitely.
This is actually this is kind of an off-topic question, but have you ever been to an event or hosted something where someone's come up to you and said, "Oh, hey, it's from this company or etc. We spoke on LinkedIn
Yeah.
not that long ago,"
Yeah.
but because they've catfished you with their picture, you're like, "I have no
This
idea who
happens to
you
me
are."
all the time. This happens to me all the time. And I, like, as a personality trait, I'm actually pretty terrible at remembering people's
Yeah,
names.
basically it was
And
me,
so,
wasn't it? Oh,
oh, where were you from? No, but that does happen because I try really hard to be a good person and chat to a lot of people on LinkedIn. And so,
yeah,
because I post a lot, I do get people messaging me saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Or "Could you help me with that?" Or "Do you have some time for some
yeah,
mentoring?" And I try really hard where I can to help people. But unfortunately, I also have to protect my own time and don't always have time to spend time with
yeah.
people. And so, well, like one interesting example of that was I was at an event and this lady came up to me and she was like, "Hi, it's this person for this company. We chatted on LinkedIn like a year or so ago.
A
Remember
year.
you didn't have time to mentor me." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Yeah,
And you feel awful, don't you? But yeah, I guess it's a privilege to be in that people want to spend time with me, and I do with them as well. But yes, I'm not very good at remembering everybody's
yeah.
name, and don't always have the time to say yes to everybody as much as I would
No, I
like
get
to.
it. Well, I appreciate you giving up time today.
Yeah, of
Really
course. Yeah.
appreciate it. So the way I want to kind of run today is I've got some kind of segments to run through, and actually it's based on a lot of the stuff you post online. So there's
Okay.
probably
Cool.
some bits we'll cover around your thoughts on kind of technology today, some of the more generic stuff, revenue focus, CS, but actually it is just built around the thoughts and insight that you share. But one question I have actually is there's obviously a lot of thought leaders and influencers in this bit of an echo chamber within customer success. But you don't declare yourself as that. You just go and post and provide insight,
No.
which I love. You know, it's organic. What motivates you
Yeah.
to actually bother sharing stuff on LinkedIn?
It's such an interesting question because you're right, there's a lot of influencers out there, and yes, goodness me, if I ever introduce myself as an influencer, Luke, like you have my absolute you have my authority to just come slap me
Okay,
at some point,
I'll get in
please.
a lot of trouble for that.
But I don't know, I care a lot about the
Yeah,
space, and I care a lot about how CS teams are perceived. I think we bring an incredible amount of value, and I know that a lot of teams are really struggling with like the recognition for that value and the work that they
yeah,
do. And I think that there are a lot of influencers out there that are there to get clickbait and are there to just post things like CS teams shouldn't do this. And I'm sitting here going, all right, well, like, what should we do?
Yeah.
let's help the community. Like what can we do? And so that's not to say I couldn't hold my hands up and say I've never put a post up there that's like CS team should never do this, because I'm sure I
Yeah.
have. But I do try and hold myself accountable to be like, all right, well, put your money where your mouth is. How would you run that if it was you? What would you do, or how would you tee that up? And so I try and spend my time thinking about that stuff, but generally I do it because I just care a lot about the
Yeah,
space.
it's a really good point, actually. There's a lot of, and I mean, we post some controversial content, but it's always with the, with the thought of like, okay, so that's not the way you think you should do it. So this is how
Yeah.
we would advise that you tackle things. And I think as well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of that you shouldn't, and it creates almost kind of anxiety within the space. People are like, oh, am I not doing this right? And then they're trying to seek the way of fixing it, and actually a lot of the time it's clickbait to then sell you a course or direct you to some gated content so then you can be marketed to. So I think it's good sales practice, obviously, but then I think
Totally, yeah.
but I think sometimes just putting your thoughts, your business, your brand out there actually does create opportunity as well, because especially in customer success, how do you demonstrate to kind of new customers expertise if they were to check you out online and actually you're sharing some really insightful stuff? That's great, right? That's that's almost like a tick in the box immediately. It's credibility beyond words, because they can see what your actions are outside of your kind of bubble.
Totally, yeah. I also think that as a leader, it's very valuable to build your company brand, to build your individual brand. Because I also think about it like if I'm hiring for a role in my team, I hope that people come
Yeah.
and see that perhaps I've got a bit of value to give, and maybe that encourages them to want to come and apply for my role versus maybe somebody
Yeah.
else's. So I think there's like a talent brand piece of it as
Yeah,
well.
that's a huge part now. When we speak to candidates looking for work, they will generally check out the leader and what they can learn from them, and that's a really
Yeah.
important decision-making process. Sometimes you'll have a business that on paper looks punchier, more progressive, bigger valuation, all that type of stuff, but they're bought into the journey that leader's going on, and they want to be part of it. And I think leaders who invest more in their brand, they tend to win more, when it comes to
Makes
attracting
sense, doesn't it?
candidates. So, oh yeah, I actually forgot. So before we jump into kind of questions, I would love to divert you to your Amazon parcels, and
Yeah.
I want to see how well I got to know you when we had a brief conversation. And apologies in advance for the tack.
Gosh, don't apologise. Don't be silly. I'm a tiny bit nervous about this because
It might not be
I
what I
think I
ordered.
mentioned to you. It was my birthday last week,
Oh
and
yeah,
your parcels arrived on the same day as my birthday, and so trying to
I
like
knew.
sift through and be
I
like,
just knew.
well, which ones are from Luke and which ones are from like family and friends. Not that I got like tons of presents.
Yeah.
But now we're older. That doesn't really happen, does it?
No.
But so I guess I'm a tiny bit nervous that what if these aren't from
Yeah,
you?
wow.
But let's hope that they're the right
Louis
two.
Vuitton bag, amazing. Yeah, well, we like to go above and beyond here.
Yeah.
Well,
So let's see. Should I
yeah,
open?
go for it.
How do you normally do this? Like, do I have to open it on Amazon?
Yeah, go
on
for it.
Camera.
Just go for it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Nailed it. Am I on reverse camera? Can you
No, I
read
can read
that?
that. Yeah.
It says
I think there's like
margaritas.
120 recipes. The funny thing is, you can go online and find all this stuff. But my
No,
mum
this
bought
is
me a book
brilliant.
actually recently with like London cocktail bars, and there's some
Yeah.
bars in there I've never heard of before. It's almost like they get lost in the
Oh.
algorithm.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Black pepper margarita.
Yeah.
I am. Okay. You've nailed this one. This is really
Good.
good. Thank
Good.
you. Really good.
What's
Thank
the
you.
pick if you had to pick a flavored margarita? What's the
Do you know, once when I was in Austin, Texas for I can't remember what I was there for. I was there for like a customer event or something. I ordered a strawberry and basil
Oh,
margarita,
okay, I can see that.
and
Yeah.
it was like insane. It was so
Yeah.
good. So I think, and it was only from this one bar. I've never seen it anywhere else.
Interesting.
And so if I could have that again, I would
We'll see
definitely
if
have
it's
that
in the
again.
book.
I'll see if it's
And-
in the book. Yeah.
So if customer success had its own margarita, what would it be?
Oh my God.
What a stupid question.
I feel like Okay, I have a thought to answer this. If it had its own margarita, it would be a it would be like a coffee espresso
Okay.
margarita, because I think right now customer success is a bit confused
Right.
about what it
Yeah.
is. And so like I've picked that because it's like, am I an espresso martini? Am I a
Right.
margarita? Like what am
Yeah.
I? And I think there's just so many different flavors and variations of what is going on in customer success right
Yeah.
now. And so yeah, bit of a cheasy answer.
No, it's
Are
good.
you going
It's
to
good. But
accept
we'd have to
that? Is
think
that
of a
all
name. It would
right?
be like M
Yeah, should we call it
A
something?
so like Marr Garita.
An espresso
Yeah.
margarita.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, stop it.
Look,
This is the best day
oh
ever.
yeah, yeah, I forgot about those. Yeah.
Yeah, so that you can put the salt
Yeah.
around it. My husband is not going to believe this.
Exactly.
He'll be like, what is happening? And why have I not thought of getting you these presents before? Okay. Oh,
So
nice.
I knew you liked
Okay.
margaritas, so we ticked that box.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, so this
Dry
dry
bag?
bag, so you paddleboard,
Yes,
is that right?
I do.
Yeah, you might
Yeah,
have
I
one of
do.
these, but I scuba dive and
Gosh,
I ordered one.
me
Oh,
too.
really? Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We have to talk about that,
Definitely,
right? Yeah.
definitely. So they're really useful.
What's in this bag?
And this is, okay, so you're a
You're
hiker as
like,
well, aren't you? You did like a ridiculous
yeah.
hike. So
Yeah, I might be doing one Saturday.
so this is like a tiny
Oh,
compressed water bottle, so you can take it anywhere and then pop it
so
out.
cool.
Yeah. So it fits in your bag.
Yes. Okay, I love this. This is. I'm sorry to any of my friends and family that are listening, but you have nailed gifting
Yeah.
probably better than 90% of my friends and my
Yeah.
family. Thank
No
you.
worries.
That's so good.
I've had lots of practice with
I
my wife. I just listen and just take notes, and then
Well,
Christmas
do you know
stockings were
what?
great.
Massive points to your
Yeah.
wife. She has done such a good job there. The dry bag is so funny because my family and I, we went on holiday recently. We went to the Philippines, so lucky.
Amazing.
And the little one, littlest girl, she's 4. She saw a couple of like travelers wearing a dry
Hmm.
bag, and she was obsessed with it. She's like, "Mummy, I want one of them. I want one of those racing bags. Please, can I
Racing
have one?"
bags.
And so we got her a little blue one. I'll find you the photo and send it after. And she wore it all holiday, like would
Bless.
not take it off. It was her pride and joy. She packed it and unpacked it like
Yeah.
non-stop. There was so many conversations about you shouldn't put wet things in there. Please stop putting bottles of water in your dry bag. The point is to keep the water out. But she
Brilliant.
just couldn't get it.
What
So she'll love that we've got matching. Thank
kind
you.
kind of shows our upbringing actually, because the difference. So my dad bought me. He obviously didn't bring me back anything when he went traveling around Spain, and he just kind of tossed me oh, here we go, I got you this. And it was do you know the kind of leather wine bags? And I was
Yeah.
about 10 at the time, and I so I used to have this little leather wine bag filled with water. Had a,
Everyone's looking at you going, oh, okay.
yeah, it had a picture of a bull on it. I can't remember what they're called, but you just fill them up with wine. But yeah, mine was filled with water because I was 10 years old. But
Amazing.
yeah,
That's so
there
good.
we go. There
Brilliant.
we go.
Thank you.
Cool, good. You've got a golden retriever as well, haven't you? But I think dogs
Yes.
are like children, aren't they, for people? And I think buying someone's dog something is kind of like guessing what what their
It's
kids.
like a little outfit for the
Yeah,
dog.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Thank you. No, they were great
Cool,
presents. Thank you.
good, good. I was kind because I've bought bugs, coffee that's been through a cat's digestive system.
You said this.
It's
Oh,
really nice.
so I've come off very well there. Yeah.
Very well, very well.
Thanks. Yeah.
Cool. So we're going to jump into the serious stuff now. So some of the questions, and I've broken it down,
Hit me
like I
with
said,
it.
into some of the bits that you posted online recently. And the first thing is talking around, and apologies, I'll keep looking over here because I've got some notes, but
All
we
good.
talked about, or you talked about scaling in sort of a high touch CS environment,
Yeah.
and that's obviously what your role encompasses. So you posted about scaling within high touch CS teams. Something we don't talk about enough. Why do you think it's currently getting kind of overlooked? You don't see huge amounts
Yeah.
out there about it.
It's mad. I think there's been a perception to date that if I have a smaller book of business, and by smaller I mean in terms of number of
Yeah,
accounts or number of logos, then of course I am going to be higher touch with those accounts. And usually that is because they are higher spend. Great. And there's this perception that then everything that I do for this customer should be 100% bespoke and 100% human led. And it's mad because I think of this in two different ways. One, but if you could scale some of that, couldn't you do more really high value
Yeah.
things? Like there's always stuff that you can automate, there's always stuff that you can scale. And secondly, if you're working in the highest value or the biggest accounts, in a lot of cases, that means you've got the most users or the most seats in that
Yeah.
account. And so you're dealing with large volumes, just not large volumes of logos. You're dealing with large volumes of
Yeah.
people inside each logo. And so there's a massive opportunity for scale there. And I remember I used to have this conversation quite a lot with some of my teams back at SalesLoft to say, hey, like these things that we're building for some of the commercial teams or the like long tail teams, like you should be doing those things in your customers. I think that now it's interesting with the emergence of AI and the ability to have agents and automate workflows and do all of this really cool stuff, but also in the world where a lot of companies are really tightening their budgets, and all of a sudden books of business are getting bigger, and people are looking at CS teams going, how could you run more efficiently? Now this conversation is starting to crop up again. Like, how do I scale in that high touch world, and how can I start to do that? And so I think if anybody is listening and they are in a high touch CS role or they're running high touch CS teams, I would advise that you really start thinking about that, because I think that will be under a bit more of a microscope over the next 6 and 12 months.
Yeah. And you mentioned AI. I'd love your thoughts. Terrified, excited, bit of both.
Like pure excitement, my side. I think there's so much capability across post-sales teams, whether it's to, what we do right now is we leverage AI and machine learning to take large volumes of data and translate it into insight in the form of a health score or an upsell score. But you can apply that same thinking, like, hey, take all of this data, all these patterns that we don't have time to trawl through. We can't physically see with our eyes. Like, give me some really good insight from it that I wouldn't see otherwise. And I think we're always looking for insight. The insight is how we prioritize which account to spend time with. It's how we figure out when we are spending time with an account or a customer, what should we say that's going to give them the most value.
Yeah.
But then I think there's also tons of capabilities for AI in like efficiency in CS, just how you stop spending time on like admin things and things that drag a CSM down. Like, get that stuff automated so that you can spend time on the things that actually you were hired for, and hopefully you really love about your job, and that drive a ton of impact across your customers. And I think there's loads of other use cases in terms of like strategy and planning and how you get smart. But really, really excited for it for our space.
It seems to be evolving really quickly, and how people are using it beyond just jumping onto Chat GPT. They're really thinking about workflows and building cadences through it. It's really interesting. But I've not seen any business necessarily. I mean, we've just seen, haven't we, Build AI went from like 450 million investment to, I think they're now zero valuation, which is crazy. So I think there's this kind of rush to get it right, and I think some people have really rushed ahead and got the investment excitement because it's AI, so let's go for it. And I think we're going to see a lot of losers over the coming 12 months that have kind of jumped ahead without almost building the foundations around what are we building this for.
Do you know, you've made me think about, I got a really great piece of advice a little while ago from a CEO, and we were talking about like the build of product, and he said you should never build something just because a competitor has built something. And I think this is the same thing. Like, everybody's going, AI is a trend, AI is a buzzword, I have to build something with AI, and so just build something with AI because that's what everybody else is doing. You should always root whatever you build in what's the problem that it's going to solve, because you will always win that time. And I think that the way that I'm feeling right now about some of the AI space, especially in customer success, is we're seeing a lot of things pop up, and it's like just websites that have just got AI shoved into some of their sentences, or
they've rebranded.
Hey, we've just bolted on this random thing that does AI into our product. Great. But we're trying to be much more intentional about it and thinking about what are the problems that we still need to really solve for our customers and all levels of our customer, and then how can AI help us be smart with that. And so I think it'll be really interesting for anybody who buys tech in the next couple of years to really think, don't get just sold by the fact that it's got AI in it. Like really think about the problem that it's going to solve in the same way that we have been over the last few
Yeah,
years.
awesome. Good stuff. And in your post around scaling high touch CS, you mentioned defining a foundational experience
Yeah.
for all customers. Uh,
Yeah.
what does that look like? Like, what does that practically look like? And how do you still
Yeah.
maintain that kind of that personal touch?
So I think about this in terms of usually a CS team has tiers of support, right? It's like the way that any business can run. You can't give the same level of support to every customer. And so usually a business or a CS team would tier their level of support. Some do it by ARR, some do it by upsell potential or complexity, whatever that looks like. And so say you've got like 3 different tiers. The way that I think about it, rightly or wrongly, is what is this like foundational experience that maybe applies to your lowest tier, but really should apply to every single tier. And then your next 1, 2, 3, how many tiers you've got, the experience that you apply a human to builds on top of
Right.
that. And so again, some of this comes back to like this idea of don't only scale in your long tail segment. Like if you're running something for that segment that's easy to run, you should be running that for every single customer. So what's this like foundational offering that goes across your whole customer base? And then how do you get smart about layering on top of that? And I'll talk about what that looks like in a second, but then this helps you get smart with your resource, because if you're applying humans to tier 2 and tier 3, it means that those humans aren't having to do the thing that you've already automated for that bottom tier. Like get them doing the other good stuff that's going to really drive value to those customers. And so for me, that might look like things as simple as having really great on-demand resources, offering scaled customer education program. So like at SalesLoft, we used to have webinars, we used to have office hours, like things that any customer could attend. And then what's your method for promoting all this great stuff that you've built for every customer to your entire customer base so that everybody can make the most of it? For some customers, that might be like a support queue or a customer success queue that any customer can come into and ask questions of. But then it might also be a more proactive journey, like, hey, I want every single customer, no matter their size, to go through this kind of onboarding journey in their first 3 months, or get this type of content in their first 3 months. And so it's like, hey, what's the stuff that I can build that's repeatable and scalable that I can give to every customer? And then for my customers that sit in the like higher touch segments, how do I layer on top of that? And so that's kind of what I mean by that foundational experience.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then I think the way that you then think about making that feel relevant is all in the design. So there's like various different things you can do here. Like if you have customers who look and feel the same, could they go through different versions of that standard onboarding journey? Or like if I translate it into hook terms, like what we do is we say, hey, your customers are unhealthy. So maybe part of your foundational experience is when your customer's unhealthy, I want to automate sending them some really relevant content on how to get them to use this thing that makes them more healthy. Great. But like you don't want to send the same message to every customer that's showing as red. Hey, you're unhealthy. Could you use our product a bit more? Like it's about getting really smart about, well, why are they unhealthy? What's the thing that would make them healthy again? And sending them on a very specific journey. So I think with anything that you're doing, whether you're building a foundational experience, whether you're thinking about automating touch points, there are ways of making it still feel very relevant to the customer. It's just all about how you leverage the data to help you do that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Did that?
Yeah, no.
Did I cover
No,
that?
yeah, definitely, it's awesome. And I think what I'll do is I'll link people back to the original post, because I'm obviously asking questions around something you put out, and there'll be a lot more context behind it as well. Because one thing you mentioned as well was, it's about how you frame it, and the question is, how do you coach your team to present automation to customers without losing that human element?
I used to get this pushback all the time. Hey, but my customer doesn't want to receive automated emails from me. Or part of what I used to ask any CSM is, hey, every 2 weeks, I want you to have a cadence that sends your main stakeholders and your champions within every one of your customers the latest product updates, the webinars and office hours that they could be joining, anything interesting that you want to know, and just send it to everybody. But my customers don't want to have automated emails from me. And I guess the question I would ask my team is, how much time can you spend with every customer? Or like, do you have infinite amount of time to spend with every customer? The answer is no. Like, you have a finite amount of time that you can spend with every single
Yeah.
customer. That is a fact. Cool. So would you rather be spending that time with that customer, sending them all a personalized
Mm.
message on something particular, or would you like how else would you rather spend that time? Oh, okay, yeah, well, I'd rather be spending my time figuring out what value means to them, or presenting back a value
Yeah.
narrative, or running sessions on how they should apply the use cases relevant to that value narrative. Cool. So like actually this like automation piece is just a fact that
Yeah.
like you'd rather spend time on that high impact stuff. And then like once they've got it, it's just communicating that back to the
Yeah.
customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, as much as I would love to spend all day, every day with you and your team, the fact is I can't do that. And so with the time that I do have with you, I really want to make sure that we're working on the things that are really impactful. And so to me, that looks and feels like these kinds of activities. And so what that means is to allow me to spend all of my time on that good stuff that's going to make you look really good, Mr. Customer, that's going to help you hit your business goals, Mr. Customer. You're going to get the occasional automated email from me and my team. And they're going to look and feel like this. They're all inform
Yeah.
emails. They're designed to do X, Y, and Z. They're all driven by data, but that's going to allow me to do this. Does that sound okay to you, Mr.
Yeah.
Customer?
Yeah.
Super simple.
Like you said, it is all about how you frame it, and it's
Yeah.
there's probably a lot of CSMs in that position at the moment, and hopefully that gives them kind of food for thought. And
Yeah.
it's disappointing though, because I do think resistance starts sometimes with the CSM before actually doing anything actionable. So
Yeah.
it's kind of second
Yeah.
guessing based on like a previous president in maybe a different company that they've worked for,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
just comes down to the ability of the individual to have those value add conversations with customers as to why we
Yes.
think, based on us being the experts, why we think
Yeah.
we should align ourselves this way, and what value you will still get from automation. But us focusing on this, like you said, is going to make sure that you're actually getting a good return on investment on
Yeah.
the software that you bought through us. So I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's really cool. Kind of that kind of leads into like the next part actually. So I kind of post a lot about CS professionals having domain experience, and I think that enables them to have stronger conversations with the end user, because like
Yeah.
I've walked in your shoes, I know what it feels like, I know why you bought this software because I had the same challenges. So one of the posts you put out was about product application and product knowledge, and I think
Yeah.
that kind of ties in a little bit with the domain side. And one thing you put out, and if you're like, I don't remember the post because you put lots of good content out there, it's fine. Again, I'll put links to the post. But you recently put out that CSMs shouldn't just know the product; they should be experts in how to apply it.
Yes.
What triggered that post? What triggered that kind of shift in your mindset? It's probably not a shift, but
Yeah, I think it occurred to me because we were talking about it internally, and just some of the things that some of the conversations that I hope that my team are having with our customers. And we talked a lot about you can't, as a CSM, train your customer on your product and expect that they immediately understand how to go and apply
yeah,
that to hit their goals. That they haven't lived and breathed in your product for however many months. That's not really their job. They're focused on so many other things. And so I think one of the dangers with being only a pure product expert, as in knowing how to click all these different buttons, is that we fall into the habit of running maybe some incredible enablement sessions, but they aren't applicable. We aren't coaching them on how to apply that into their day to day.
right,
And so I think one of the biggest benefits of where a CSM can come in and where you elevate yourself from just being somebody who knows the product in and out, maybe a bit more like a support person, is okay, cool, I can tell you how to click here and how to build things in the product. But what I really want to talk to you about is how you should then apply that into your workflow, or some plays that you should run through our product to help you get to that goal that you want to get to. And I think that then elevates you as a CSM, but it also helps you have a lot more control over the value that the customer is going to get out of the
yeah,
product. So rather than just sitting back and going, hey, I'll train you on all these features and hope that you're going to go away and figure out what features to use and how that's going to help you with your workflow, we should be thinking about training on workflows, and the features are just a part of
yeah.
that.
No, that makes sense. And actually, training is not something you can run once. So if you get into the habit of running very similar sessions, like effectively
Yes.
you become a trainer slash
Yeah.
support person. And it's
Yeah.
very reactive then, isn't it? It's not really thinking about their business objective. It's just
Yeah.
it's probably missing the mark. And obviously if you're in a smaller organization where perhaps there is, less support, like the customer success role becomes a bit broader, I can understand how that could become quite challenging. But certainly when you have a more established organization, you do need to kind of define the lines between support and CS and training, enablement, etc. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're not having those value conversations.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think it's that they're important elements of the CS role, but I think where CSMs then get seen as, well, hey, your job is just to
Yeah.
train, or your job is just to answer product questions. That's when we're getting ourselves in danger territory of not bringing the most value to the customers, but then not bringing the most value to our business
Yeah.
either.
Well, it's focusing on features and not business kind of outcomes and objectives for the customers, right? So a
Yeah.
question on that is how do you kind of coach, train your CSMs to, I think the wording, kind of going back over your article, but yeah, how do you actually train or coach CSMs to understand use cases and business outcomes versus diving into features? Or should you
Yeah.
not need to? Should they be at a level when you're hiring them?
No, I actually think that you should, because I think that no matter what level you're hiring a CSM, you can't guarantee that they've done that
Yeah.
before. You can't guarantee that they did it the way that you'd like to do it, or that they understand your space enough to know how to do that. I actually don't think that this is something, if I'm honest with myself, that I've really nailed
Okay.
right now as a leader. I'm thinking a lot about it with my team, and we're doing, like, so for instance, tomorrow we're running a like success planning and value realization workshop, and that is all about how do you build a really great success plan? What does a great objective mean? How does that link back to value that they care about as a business? And then how do you like layer down into the goals that you should be aiming and the strategies that you should be running? And so part of how I'll coach or train my team is to focus on the value at the end. But then some of what I'm doing right now is just spending the time building it with them, because I don't know that I've totally figured out how I should build that into my like onboarding
Yeah.
of CSMs, my like rhythm as a leader. Like I haven't really figured that out yet. And so like for instance, I was on site with a customer this week with my team, and we run a CS workshop as part of our implementation with our customers, and it's purely to understand like how do you operate right now across your different teams or your different tiers. How do you KPI people? What do they do? What do they not do? What are they struggling with? And understanding all of that then helps us come back and go, well, I think per team or per segment, these are the 3 plays that you should be rolling out and using Hook for, because these are the 3 things that are going to get you to that like end number that you really care about and getting the customer bought in. And so right now my strategy is like part coaching, part like just getting in there with my
Yeah.
team and showing them how I ask questions and then how I would build it off the back of it.
How do you coach yourself then? Because obviously you're trying to solve problems all the time as a leader. How do you make sure that you're almost sense checking your approach?
Yeah. Really good question. Probably another area for opportunity. Like spend a lot of time
Yeah.
networking, like speaking to peers about how do you do this? How would you solve this problem? And then probably from podcasts and all that stuff
Yeah.
that everybody else is doing. Like, hey, am I thinking about this right? Am I doing this
Yeah.
right? But I think that's part and parcel of like one of the scariest bits of being a leader. One of the scariest bits of posting onto LinkedIn is like, this is just my opinion on how to
Of
do
course.
stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's right. I don't know that it's the right way. Like if it helps us be successful, great. But there's probably a ton of other ways of doing it, and I'm very open to that.
Cool.
But yeah, good question, and maybe I need to think about that a
No,
bit
it's
more.
good. Is there anyone you
Yeah.
particularly look up to in customer success as, I hate to use the word, but as a good thought leader?
Not that posts on LinkedIn.
Okay.
No, like I don't
I hear
have
that a lot, actually. Yeah.
yeah, I don't have the people that I go to for advice are people that I have met along the way that I rate really highly, but none of them post on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, which is annoying for everybody else, but part of
It's
life.
an interesting link, though, because I network with other recruiters. I
Mm,
network with lots of CS professionals, revenue leaders, and CEOs. I get a lot of value from actually speaking to CEOs and understanding the
mm,
problems they're looking to solve. And I find that the people that are ultra successful, especially the hyper wealthy, they just don't spend any time on social media at all.
yeah.
But they still network a lot in person. So they still go and meet
Yeah.
individuals. They attend proper business networking events. I just find that really
Mm,
fascinating. They're not trying to sell something, right? They're
yeah.
executing in their own domain. So it's interesting.
And genuinely there to learn. That's the I
Yeah,
think is the difference. It's like genuine curiosity. Like, hey, I want to go into a room and I just want to ask people like how to do
yeah,
things. Yeah.
yeah. But I think it's great if you're always kind of seeking better ways of doing things. It's why I love going to events, and I think
Yeah.
Gainsight run a really good event. And I'm not plugging Gainsight; we're not sponsored by them, but less so the content they deliver in some of the sessions, which is sometimes centered around selling Gainsight. I think it's certainly become more
Mm,
that as of late, and that part's less engaging. But just getting
yeah.
everyone together in a big space, because you'd be surprised when you speak to CS leaders who appear to, speaking candidly, have their shit together. They're like,
Mm,
Jesus, no, like this has been such a tough
yeah.
year, and
Who does? Yeah.
exactly, and they're really they're actually quite humble, and they're just prepared to kind of be honest and open about
Yeah.
their experience. And I think the best people will share where they've totally screwed it up,
Yeah.
and that's where people learn. I think if we always analyze or always focus on the good stuff and don't analyze where it didn't
Yeah.
go right, then that's where it becomes less progressive.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And be honest about what you've not figured out
Yeah,
yet, for
yeah.
sure.
And last bit around kind of product application, kind of product knowledge side. So some pushback I get actually is individuals are feeling a bit more overwhelmed at the moment when it comes to more technical kind of products. So if
Mm,
someone's kind of listening and they feel they're in that kind of space of feeling overwhelmed about getting more technical, what
mm.
kind of advice would you give them? Are they overthinking the product technicality element?
Yeah. So interesting. Literally one of my team said to me yesterday in a one-on-one, I feel like I'm like ready to do this thing, but I'm not sure that my like technical knowledge is there. Like
Fine.
is that okay?
This was
And
not
I was like, do you
pre-planned,
know
by the
what?
way.
Yeah, no. No, but it's so funny because it's so funny that you say that. But yeah, and I said to her, "Hey, like the things that I care most about are your ability to understand what value means to a customer, figure out with the customer the best plan to deliver that value, make sure that you are bringing stakeholders along the way with you, that you can tell that value story back. Like that's the thing I care
Yeah,
about. And if you find along the way that you don't know the answer to something, you will go figure it
yeah,
out. Like the technical stuff will come. That stuff you can figure out along the way. And hey, there's this amazing thing right now called ChatGPT that can help
yeah,
you translate all these different documents. Like, if you're a CSM thinking, gosh, of all this stuff to learn, there's so much tech out there that's going to help with that. And so I would focus on the like, what does being a really great CSM look like in your company, and like go focus on those things. And the technical stuff, like you'll figure that out along the
yeah.
way.
Agreed. And I think there is a risk of if you know something too well, if you know the ins and outs technically of your platform, for example, then
Yeah,
you run the risk of trying to answer the questions for customers on a support level.
you're so
So you
right.
get drawn into
Yeah,
that, right? They call in,
totally. Yeah,
oh, well, I've got you. And that will be your
yeah.
nickname in the
Hey,
end. While I've got you.
yeah, yeah. You're so right.
You post a lot about so this is I think it's a topic that's 10 years old, I would say, and the rest,
Mm,
and it's CS as a revenue driver. And you do
yeah,
post a lot about this, and you're vocal about your excitement around CS owning revenue, I would say.
yep.
I mean, you worked at Sales Loft, so you're
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if you weren't commercially astute. Why is that? Is it because you're seeing a lot of pushback on the commercial side? Like what's the switch for you?
Yeah, as in like why do I care about it, or why do I post about it, or maybe just a
Both,
bit of
yeah,
both?
both. Because I think
Yeah.
by posting you
I
show you obviously care about it.
yeah, I think I'm so fortunate because I grew up as a CSM in a revenue owned
Yeah.
space. Like I always owned a number. I think there was one time where LinkedIn had changed our targets, and they took us from owning the NRR number to owning like utilization of the platform, and I hated it
Interesting.
because you just I couldn't attach myself as much to something that the business cared
Yeah.
about. I then wasn't as close to my sales team because we weren't both driving towards the same thing. Then there was like we were like, what do you call it, like rubbing
Yeah.
horns over where a CSM should focus, because the salesperson was like, hey, there's a big upsell over here, can we do some work with that customer to go drive the upsell? And I was like, but they're at 100% utilization, and like I'm targeted on utilization, so like I'm going to go focus on this customer over here who's like plodding along but only at 70%
Yeah.
utilization. That's what's going to get me to my
Mm.
target. And it just felt so so different, and like we just weren't all
Yeah.
driving to the same goal as an account team. And so I find myself very fortunate that aside from that brief stint, they then soon changed it back again after, I think, I have always owned a number, and I will always gravitate towards owning a number. And I think part of it is because of that like unity with the commercial team, like, hey, we're all driving towards this. Part of it is to be able to show impact to the business, right, as a CS
Yeah.
function, like, hey, here's all this work that we're doing, and here's what it's
Yeah.
impacting. And I think if you then don't have, I think owning a number sometimes means that you are targeted on the GRR or the NRR number. Sometimes you close the renewals or upsells yourself. Sometimes you don't. Like, I would probably take it either way, but as long as I'm targeted on the
Yeah.
number, it helps the business see, hey, this is what you're influencing. The piece around then owning the actual upsell and renewal conversation just gives you a bit more control over like where you and your team are spending the
Yeah.
time. But I think there's so much value. Like the type of CS that I love and the type of CS that I gravitate to is this value driven CS. And if you're the one who is driving towards the customer, improving their revenue or improving
Yeah.
whatever business metric they care about, why would you not own the number that gets to the end of that? So yeah.
And that's a really good question. It kind of leads into the why. Like, why would you not want to own that? And why do you think? Because there is a lot of resistance. And speaking
Yeah.
from a recruitment perspective, one of the common things I see, particularly in candidate CVs, is a lack of commercial ownership. And when you
Yes. Yeah.
speak to them, and this is no disrespect to anyone that's kind of looking that hasn't got that commercial focus, but a lot of the time they don't know what the value impact is within the CS function, and there's a correlation between being open to work and not knowing that. So
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting.
why
Yeah.
do you think there is a lack of commercial ownership and pushback from CS? Do you think it stems from any particular event, time, transition into the
It's
role, skill sets? Like,
Yeah, maybe there's some. So I think there's probably two ways of looking at that. You've got like the businesses that are choosing not to have CS owning a number, which is an interesting decision, and why is that happening? And then you've got like the CSMs themselves who aren't stepping up to want to own a number, or the CS leaders who aren't stepping up, going, hey, like target me on that. I want to be
yeah,
targeted on that. And I think that, yeah, you're right to some extent. Like maybe some of it is just that like more old school CS mentality of like, hey, I've always operated this way. Like I love my job as somebody who answers product questions and is targeted on
yeah,
NPS. I'm happy there, and I don't want to change. And I think maybe there is some hesitancy there, but then the businesses need to allow CS functions to do that too. And why there's hesitancy to target CS teams on a number, I don't know, because you can target a CS team on a revenue number and them not own the renewal
yeah,
conversation. You can still target them on like, hey, the work you do influences GRR and NRR, and therefore we're going to give you a comp scheme that aligns to that. I don't know. I don't know
yeah.
why
It
why
is.
teams aren't doing that. I'd love to see more of it, because how do you prove the value of, cool, like our biggest business metric is NRR. We need to get NRR to 120% as a business to make it to whatever round of funding or to go public or whatever that looks like. But how are you going to do that by increasing NPS?
Mm,
Like what's the correlation? How do you tie your NPS score to the fact that this happens and then this happens and then this
yeah.
happens? Um,
I
anyway.
think there's probably an element if you're in a role at the moment and you're not connected to the number. I think take it upon yourself to get connected. Because
Yes.
if
Yeah.
you rewind even kind of 18 months ago, where and CS is still under the spotlight for a lot of organizations, and I think the reason
Yeah.
that's maintained is because there is still that, okay, the board going, so what value do these guys derive beyond? And then we talk about like the customer metrics, like the NPS scoring.
Yeah.
It's like it's half of the picture. And I think people are switching on to now understanding a little bit more about their value impact. But I would say
Yeah.
if you don't know that, like go away and understand how you calculate NPS. Go away and understand what impact you have on upsell, cross sell, growth opportunities.
Yeah.
Like get connected to the account management, the sales team, and just understand what that cycle looks like. Because whilst it might not be targeted, if you can understand the impact, you've kind of got more of a case to maybe, instead of waiting for the business to determine what your value is, you can almost reverse
Yeah.
engineer that and present
Yeah.
that value to them. It's a little bit like reversing. I
Totally.
think about QBR. It's all that data
Yeah.
collation and
Yeah.
being able to present to a customer where there is value impact and where they should be
Yeah.
seeing a return based on all the metrics you're tracking. You should be able to reverse engineer
Totally.
that for the business.
Yeah, you're so right. Like if you aren't owning a number right now, like go and figure out your GRR, go and figure out your NRR, and yeah, if you don't know how to calculate them, go find that out. We released through customer growth a course like purely on that to help people just understand the metrics and how do you calculate them and what should you be thinking about. But also like go sit with your sales team. Hey,
Yeah.
like what number are you targeted on? Like how do I help you hit NRR? Like which are the customers that you're focused on for growing? And then you're and why we don't do that more, you and your sales counterpart should be like two peas in a pod. Like here's what I'm going after, here's what you're going after, how do we both hit these targets together, even if you're not targeted on the NRR, because then you can build a case that just shows business impact internally. Yeah, so I agree with you completely.
Well, I interviewed a revenue leader a couple of weeks back, a guy called James Bissell, and he's great in the sense that he's helped scale businesses both from a sales and connected CS perspective, where the businesses have been quite commercial. So there's some good tidbits there, just about, like you say, getting more connected to sales,
Yeah.
but even things like understanding what methodologies the sales team work to. So
Yeah.
medpick, for
Yeah.
example, like understanding what
Yeah.
does that look like, and then through the handover process, you've got a really kind of detailed, insightful. This is why the customer bought the software in the first place, and that
Totally. Yeah.
onboarding, that kind of value conversation you have when meeting your customer for the first time. You just got so much more information. So on that, you've obviously worked with, hired a lot of, and managed now a CS function. And what traits do you see in those who love owning the number?
Oh, that's such a good question. I
And
think,
here's a
I was trying to
controversially
think.
as well. Do you see a difference between
Yeah.
male and females in terms of owning number, not owning the number?
No, not that I've noticed. No. Um, I what do I see in someone that owns a number? The way that I describe like the type of person that I look to hire, and I've like really only started to articulate this I think well over the last couple of weeks. Not that I'm probably going to articulate this well, but it's that drive to understand what's the end point I need to get that customer to? Like really going to do discovery to figure out what is that end point? Like what is that value number? Like nail that. I need to really understand what that is. And then how do I build out a plan with my customer to get there? Like what are the places that it's going to go wrong? Who do I need to bring along the way? Like go figure out who we need to tell that story back to, and then how do I deliver on that? And you could be talking about your number, you could be talking about a value statement, like whatever that is. It's just that, hey, I need to understand where I've got to get this to. I've got to build a plan to get there, and I'm going to bring everybody on board with me. I'm going to make sure internally, externally, everyone's singing to the same hymn sheet and that we're going to get
Yeah.
there. And that's that like raw skill set and raw drive that I'm looking for, that makes people really good at owning a number, really good at understanding what value means to a customer and building a success plan and delivering against it.
Yeah.
Really good at multi-threading because they understand that like, oh, okay, I've got to get this person on the journey. They've got to get us there. And that person has to know when we've got there that we've got there, and that's going to secure my renewal. And so it's that kind of mindset. And let me tell you, you can't figure that out from a CV. That's
I was going to ask.
so
Yeah.
difficult.
Well,
Yeah,
what do you
it's
look for
so
when you're
difficult.
looking at a CV then to kind of give you at least enough confidence to want to speak to them?
Yeah, I find it really difficult because I don't think to have that skill set that you have to have been in CS before. I think that you can hire a really good project manager, you can hire
Yeah,
people from sales, you can hire people who've worked in more like change side of things, and so really hard to tell from a CV. I try and look for people who've certainly for like the bigger customer side who've worked with bigger
yeah,
projects or bigger things before where they're pulling in lots of different people. They've got to figure out how you get people there. But I think for the most part, I figure that out from speaking to people, and we do like presentation or role play rounds as part of our interview
cool.
process to try and figure that
Yeah,
out.
because words are so different to actions, right? And one of the things you
Totally.
described, so curiosity is a skill set that is clearly really
Yeah.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
tell me about this, and then okay, thanks for that information. Now I want to know more about that, and a little bit more, and a little bit more.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
you mentioned project management, so then being able to coordinate those stakeholders to get on page with
Yeah.
what's happening. So it's really
Yeah.
challenging to kind of test that. And one thing I would say to candidates who are applying for jobs, you're effectively in the interview process the second you send your CV and the subsequent actions, because you're not going to get seen if you've got like a fairly generic CV. So
Yeah.
fix that. And I would always say, and you might hate this because you're like, don't message me, but how do you? One thing you mentioned there in the kind of skill set, you didn't use the word, but it's clearly people that demonstrate that kind of proactiveness, that curiosity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you demonstrate that without being interviewed? Well, if they're sending you a voice note, if they're sending you something super relevant to your business, like doing things
Yeah.
like that to then represent themselves beyond the CV, like the interview's already
Yeah.
started because you're like, well, this girl, this guy, super proactive. They've already messaged me.
Totally.
They've actually they're connected to the sales team, and they've asked some really good
Yeah.
discovery questions about the product from the sales team, and now they've linked it back to the company they work for, and they presented me with some stats.
Yeah.
I love this. We need to interview them, and I think more of that needs to happen for especially in
Yeah.
a candidate competitive market, which is kind of where it is because
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of people
Totally.
looking.
I agree with you. I think I also posted about this a little while ago that I agree, like being proactive in messaging, but don't just be like, hey, I've applied.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Like look forward to hear like it's
yeah.
got to be
I'd love to
something.
find out
And
more.
I have interviewed somebody because their message to me was so
Yeah,
good. So it's like, yes, cool, like message on LinkedIn, find an email, but you've got to do something that stands out. You've got
yeah,
to figure out something that gets your name out
yeah,
there.
yeah.
So yeah, but otherwise totally agree
I
with
think
you.
we've just got a bit lazy, really. And it's probably a
Yeah.
product of the market being so good a couple of years ago. People were just
Yeah.
inundated with opportunity. They didn't really have to
Yeah.
look. It was just, oh, I've got another recruiter bloody messaging me about a job, or the company's messaging me directly, and it was just inbound.
Yeah.
And it's now more of
Yeah.
an outbound approach. And I just don't think people are super equipped for that. And actually, just thinking out loud, it almost ties back to the lack of commercial thinking from a CS professional, thinking very
Yeah.
inbound and reactive as opposed to actually I need to be a bit more sales centric here to drive
Yeah.
conversations forward. So I'll send my
Yeah.
CV, path of least resistance, but
Yeah.
driving outcomes, there needs to be that 10, 15, 20% more, which is actually 95% more than most people are doing.
Than most people. Totally. Yeah. Totally.
Cool. Well, I've kept you for a long time, so if you don't mind, I'm going to dive into some quick fire questions.
Yeah, well, let's
But
go for
this
it.
is all awesome, really insightful, and I feel like I could talk for hours, to be honest. So, are you ready?
I'm
So
ready.
you've
I'm, I'm scared, but I'm ready.
right, you've discovered the time machine. You can go back
Okay.
10 years and give yourself some career advice. What would it be?
Okay, so what advice would I give myself? Network. Network, like build relationships with every person because you are never going to know the answer to
Yeah,
everything. Lucky for me, when I started my CS career at LinkedIn, one of their values is relationships matter, and you're really encouraged to go spend time with lots of different people. But I would go and be like, hey, this thing really matters. Like invest as much as you can in your network, because they will help you and you will help them in 10 years' time.
awesome. What about some personal advice? Or is this too close to the wire?
Personal advice: cherish your time before you have tons of responsibilities from little
Wow,
humans.
that's deep. Okay. Well, at least it's not don't have little humans because that
Yeah, no, no, but like as a parent, I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
just decide at like 8 o'clock to go for a walk or to go for, the kids are in bed, so it's like relish that time where you are totally free. You've not, you can just do things on a whim. You don't have to pre-plan everything, and I feel like pre-kids, you don't maybe realize how lucky you are with that thing. So it'd be
yeah.
such a nice thing to go back and be like, hey, you've got this real good.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of stepping away. We'll dive back into the quick fire questions, but on LinkedIn, the first thing you say is mum, then it's kind of business, and through
Yeah.
speaking to you, you've got lots of stuff going on. How do you, and you mentioned how important balance is.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
how do you
How
maintain
do you?
balance?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't think I always nail the balance. Like I think there are weeks. I think generally I nail it really well. There are weeks where I don't nail it. Like definitely don't.
Yeah,
But I think I try and be really protective of my calendar. Like I block things
yeah,
out for personal stuff that really matters. I make sure that when I'm not working, I don't like check emails and things like that in front of the kids. And I try and catch myself regularly, like, hey, how am I doing? Am I doing things well? Am I not doing
yeah,
things well? And do you know what? I blur my worlds a little bit. Like my kids know about work, and they come on and they say hi to the
cool.
team, and they come into the office with me, and I talk a lot about my family at work, and I think that's
Yeah,
important because then when you want to find this balance, I need to say to my kids, hey, like I have to travel tomorrow and I have to stay away, and they understand like, hey, mummy works
yeah,
because it does this and this for us.
awesome.
But also at work, if I need to say, hey, I can't do this today, then they get it
Yeah.
because they know I'm a family person. And so trying to just blend the two worlds a little bit actually helps me a little bit with that, I
Yeah, I
think.
love that. If you blend, you're less likely to build resentment then against work,
Yeah,
and even like the other way sometimes. Like, oh, the personal stuff's really important. You don't want to be pushing that away either. So,
totally. Yeah.
okay? Back to the quick fire. So, what's the worst bit of career advice you've ever received?
Oh my
It's a good one.
goodness. Um, I don't know that I can think that I've had bad career
Worst
advice.
customer success advice you've ever had.
Um, Apparently, I don't take this stuff in because I can't think of an answer to either of those questions. I bet what will happen is tonight
You'd be
I'll
like, oh
be
my
like
god,
doing
you'll just
something
wake
and
up
I'll be
at
like,
3 a.m. and
oh,
be like,
remember that person said that we should do that? What on earth were they thinking? Apparently, I don't take any of that in. I can't think of anything. I'm sorry.
what's the biggest misconception people have about customer success?
That I just think like lack of impact, that we just know about the product, we just train. CSMs are there to just train customers to make them happy, all of those
Yeah,
things.
chief happiness officers.
Chief,
I'm sure
yeah,
that is a job
yeah,
title somewhere.
yeah.
You can instantly master one skill. What would it be?
Ooh, like work
Any
skill,
skill.
any
Any
skill.
skill.
Oh my gosh, I have so many.
You can only pick one.
Can I pick one? Cartwheeling. I can't cartwheel.
That's the
I'm
lamest
so
skill.
sorry, but like that is so topical for me right now because both my kids want to cartwheel. I've never been able to
A
cartwheel.
cartwheel.
It's like it's
So you
yeah, I
could
want to
you
be able
could
to do a
backflip.
cartwheel.
You could.
I don't care. Like all I'm thinking is so basic right now. I want to be able to cartwheel.
You,
I want to be
you
able
think
to
that would be a gateway
juggle.
though to then learning to backflip and stuff? I think I can cartwheel.
I mean, I'm sure there's better things, but like the thing that popped into my head was that would be really cool to cartwheel.
Okay. Okay. Taking that question
Uh,
one further and making it really ridiculous, you can pick one superpower.
oh, do you know, we talk about this sort of stuff all the time in our house. Um, would I
That's a
fly?
good one.
I feel like maybe I'd fly. I think it would be really cool to be able to just like fly wherever you wanted, like zip over to another
Mm.
country. Yeah, maybe I'm going to
So
pick
you
that.
fly.
I'd
You might be
fly. Is that all
cold. Yeah, I
right?
think it's good, but I just teleport.
Yeah.
Like,
Is that like the cartwheel of
no, I think
superpowers or what?
it's a good one, but I think
I feel like
practically
I'm really basic underneath. Just want to be able to cartwheel.
cartwheel.
Like,
Well,
just
cartwheel
leave me
and
alone.
fly. I think teleporting would be better because you cut out the travel time.
No, there's something about flying,
Oh,
I
it's cool,
think.
but it would be cold as well, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? Because you wouldn't fly low because you might hit a bird or something.
You can't ask me any superpower and then
And
have a go
then
at the
debate you
superpower I've
for it.
picked.
Yeah, no,
Choose again.
that's fair. Okay, okay. Um, what other quick fire questions have I got? Oh, one SaaS tool you can't live without. Can't say hook.
Well, that's annoying. Call recording software.
Okay, is
Yeah, like I just think it's such table stakes these days for any CS team. Like, how great as a leader to be able to go in and like watch any call that your team have done, coach them on it, turn it into like transcripts, all that kind of stuff. Like, love it.
would you shout any out in particular?
We use Jiminy right
Okay,
now. Also, big fan of Salesloft and what they can
cool.
do.
We'll tag them.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll give you some additional discounts.
some swag.
So you're hiring your first CSM. What's the one non-negotiable trait that you'd be looking for?
I describe I describe it as like leadership,
Okay.
but not as in like people leadership. Like the kind of person that is gonna step up and take a customer down a journey, not just be led by the customer, not just be a yes man,
Yeah.
like to be one to be like, hey, but I think we should do this and how about that? And to be able to take the customer down a journey to get them where they need to
Yeah.
go and have the difficult conversations and go ahead and find people. So I think it's
That's a good one.
leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Okay, awesome. Last question. What's the most cringe-worthy buzzword in customer success right now, or tech in general?
Oh gosh, these are such good questions. Cringe-worthy, strategic. Probably be more strategic. I see a lot of posts about that. Be more strategic. What does that mean? Probably strategic.
Yeah.
There's probably 50 more that I can't really think
No,
of. I'm not very good at this quick
I
fire
put you on
question
the
thing.
spot. I put you on the spot, but no, they're awesome, and it's we'll wrap it up there because I appreciate you've got a lot of work to do amongst
Yeah,
amongst
thank
jumping on
you.
the podcast. But no, honestly, Tash, I appreciate it so much. And how do people find you?
How do people find me?
LinkedIn.
On
Don't leave your
LinkedIn.
home address
Yeah.
because that'd be really weird.
I thought you were gonna say like how do people find you? I was like,
I'd rather they
probably
didn't.
abrasive or
Yeah, yeah. Can't do cartwheels, so
terrible at gymnastics. Never mind.
I think that should be a goal.
Thank you. It's been so much
I think
fun.
within
Yeah,
2 weeks' time, you need to master the cartwheel.
if anybody 2 weeks, if anybody like listening knows how to as an adult figure out how to do a cartwheel, please hit me up on
Don't you
LinkedIn.
It's not.
I don't know, like I feel like you have to have a surprising amount of core strength that I'm not sure
I'm
I
gonna
have.
what I'm gonna try and do. I'm gonna try and get
try
Rohan
after this
film
and let
me
me know.
cartwheel at lunchtime today.
Okay,
The office
great,
is quite small.
great.
I'm gonna send that over and then we'll cut that in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do some research now.
It could be like a slide transition. You like on your PowerPoint decks, like you cartwheeling across, and the next slide comes
Yeah,
on.
exactly. But what I'll do is I'll get Rohan
Okay.
to do it in a series of pictures. So really, he's just holding my legs up, and
Yeah.
and then running back and taking a picture. Oh, awesome. Well, look,
God,
thank you so
so
much. It's
fun.
been awesome. I'd love to do this
Thank
again
you.
sometime. We're going to try and
Yeah, definitely.
get kind of multiple guests on.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to have you part of a panel as well. But yeah,
Yeah,
thank you so
sure.
much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.